Hi, I've noticed recently that a lot of people in the racing game community are making videos about the decline of racing games. Over the past couple of weeks, there have been countless videos of people explaining the decline of racing games currently and giving their own opinions on the matter. Because I am interested in making videos about racing games once again, as I said in my update video, I'd like to join in on this conversation and tell you what I think about the current state of racing games, what it's actually like, and what I think could be done to make it better. So, the decline of racing games. The decline of racing games right now can mostly be attributed to the lack of any new IPs, because we're down to only a handful of them. There's Need for Speed, there's The Crew, and there's obviously Forza Horizon. And while a lot of new franchises are slowly starting to arrive, like Test Drive Unlimited, Solar Crown, we'll come back to that, and a whole bunch of others, including indie games, people are slowly starting to lose their mind. And I'll explain why, because each one of these has their own individual reasons as to why. So let's start with the first one, Need for Speed. The main thing that people have to say about Need for Speed is that Electronic Arts doesn't take the IP that seriously, which I can understand where their perspective comes from. Need for Speed Unbound had very little marketing towards its launch. I don't know if anybody noticed this, but the game didn't have a launch trailer. They just let the people who were streaming it on Twitch before they were supposed to do the launch for them. And since then, we've been promised a new content update for Need for Speed Unbound coming out this month. As of today, March 10th, 2023, there's nothing of the sort. We're still waiting for new information, but we have been promised the Need for Speed Unbound content update and live service, and the developers are actually taking matters into their hands to support the game even for a little while longer than the previous ones, and hopefully better as well, because the previous games 2015 did support great, but Payback and Heat, not so much. Then there's The Crew. The Crew does have something concrete worth noting. There's a new game coming out this year, you've probably seen it already, The Crew Motorfest. And while the game does look cool, in my opinion, it looks great, it looks like it's going to be fun, people are taking issue, and by people I mean me, that the game is starting to become a Forza Horizon competitor. And the reason why people have a problem with that is because The Crew started as a Need for Speed competitor. If you remember the first game, it was very gritty and grungy rather. It was all about illegal street racing and a more focused street racing-esque storyline, that kind of thing. Then The Crew 2 just transitioned into an all-out Forza Horizon competitor with the festival and sanctioned events and no police. Even with the new content updates, it's not really police, it's more like a police DLC, like Calling All Units was for the first game. And now The Crew Motorfest is banking on the Forza Horizon idea even more by doing it in the form of a festival, like Forza Horizon. That's the main gimmick of Forza Horizon. Don't worry, we'll come back to Forza Horizon. Then we have the newcomer, Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown, which has gone almost 3 years without a single snippet of gameplay anywhere. Somebody on Twitter actually made a really funny point that somebody could tell them that TDU Solar Crown was a money laundering scheme and they would probably believe it, and I can totally see where they're coming from. We only recently got a bunch of screenshots from the dealerships and the workshops in the game, and there's still no gameplay, and the game is not going to be present at the upcoming Nikon Connect event, which might have already happened. I haven't really checked at the time of filming this video. And that's about it. So we have 3 major racing game IPs, Forza Horizon. Well, where do we even start with Forza Horizon? The DLC, the recycling of cars, the same recycled themes over and over, the lack of progression, the broken multiplayer. I've only played Forza Horizon 5 for about 30 minutes because it barely runs on this piece of shit next to me. But it's all kind of the same thing. I mean, Event Lab looks cool. I see a bunch of stuff people are doing on Twitter with Event Lab, and that looks great. But Forza Horizon is kind of the same all the time, and there's not really a whole lot happening with Forza Horizon. There's DLC cars, there's a new rally expansion, okay, fine, but Forza Horizon, in my opinion, needs a direction change, because it's no longer that exciting anymore. When Horizon first came out, it was a really cool idea, but the first game had a more developed art style, it had a storyline, and it actually felt like a real festival that you would attend, and now it's just artificially escalated, shall I say. It's a lot of the same stuff just keeps happening over and over again with Forza, and it's just boring. I think a lot of people who play Forza regularly are experiencing franchise fatigue right now. I see complaints about Horizon 5, pretty much a whole bunch of facets of Horizon 5 on Twitter all the time. Need for Speed Unbound, one major thing about the game is that it still feels like a Ghost game and not a Criterion game because it's based on Heat. Jake MG, good friend of mine, also makes videos about racing games. He made a really good point that Need for Speed Unbound feels like it came from a heavily reworked Ghost games and not Criterion games. At least Need for Speed Unbound has something going for it. I've been told it's easily the best recent Need for Speed game in the past like decade or so. I still haven't played it yet. Again, blame this guy over here. But the thing about Need for Speed Unbound is they didn't really seem to make it that special. Like, it's the first Need for Speed game in 3 years, and while we did get some communication from the developers, there's still a whole bunch of stuff that need to be fixed in Unbound, and it still feels like a Ghost game. It still has the same sort of negligible issues, and it still has the feel of a Ghost game. Like, I haven't played Unbound, but from what I've seen in videos, it looks and feels kind of like a Ghost Need for Speed game, but a heavily reworked version of Ghost with some outside assistance from Cody's Cheshire and Criterion Games and stuff. This is not entirely surprising. They didn't have a lot of time to finish the game. They had to use Heat as a base to get it out on time, but that's the thing. Need for Speed needs to abandon the Heat and Payback in 2015 probably code base and start completely from scratch. And as for the crew, since the crew is doing its own thing, there's not really a whole lot to complain. I mean, there is the in-game economics. I've heard a whole bunch of stuff about that. In fact, that's the reason why I stopped playing the Crew 2 in the first place. But the major thing that's happening in the racing game community right now is people are experiencing fatigue. It's the same ideas, it's the same IPs, there's nothing really to get excited for, and a lot of franchises are just going down the drain. Grid Legends, I've been told, is a good game, but Dirt 5, I've also been told, isn't a very good game, and so have I heard of the same of Gran Turismo 7. Project Cars is dead. Formula 1, I know there's a dedicated community that follows Formula 1 games. I'm not personally a part of it, but this is a very similar situation to video game consoles. Today, if you want a video game console, you go for a PlayStation 5, an Xbox Series X or Series S, or a Nintendo Switch. Back in the 90s, yeah, you could get a PlayStation or a Nintendo 64, but you could also get the Sega Saturn, the Virtual Boy, if you're particularly interested in medieval torture methods. There was the Sega Dreamcast, and then back in the 80s there was the Intellivision, the ColecoVision, a whole bunch of stuff, the Sega Master System as well, the Magnavox Odysseys from even before that, you know what I mean. And all the handheld consoles as well, the PSP, the Game Boy Advance SP, and the Game Boy in general. That's the same thing as happening to racing games. So nowadays you have to choose, if you want a AAA racing game, you choose between either Need for Speed, The Crew, or Forza. By the way, Forza is an Xbox exclusive, let's not forget. And if you want a simulator, you choose Gran Turismo 7, or the upcoming Forza Motorsport, or maybe Assetto Corsa. But just think back to like 15 to 20 years ago. We were spoiled. There was Enthusia Professional Racing, there was Midnight Club, there was Automodelista, Tokyo Extreme Racer, Street Racing Syndicate, Juiced. There was a million different rally games as well. There was Rally Sport Challenge, that was a Microsoft exclusive. Then there was Project Gotham Racing, well, the whole Project Gotham Racing series, and there was Blur, and there were Need for Speed spin-off games, Need for Speed Nitro, Need for Speed Shift, Need for Speed World even, that's technically a spin-off game. That's the main point I want to make here. Racing games are no longer innovating. Aside from Need for Speed Unbound, because I happen to think that the cartoon effects, or whatever the hell you want to call them, people called me out for calling them anime effects, whatever, the animated effects in Unbound. I think that's a great idea, and I think that's innovation and showing that you care about the game and you want it to do something different. But in other facets of the racing game landscape, there is no innovation. Like, I'm pretty sure that Forza Horizon 6 is going to be much of the same as Forza Horizon 5, just set in a different world, and maybe it'll have 10 extra cars that were actually previously in Forza Motorsport, but they'll sell them as brand new, new to Horizon cars. It's a complete joke, whatever. Nobody is innovating anymore. A lot of developers are not willing to invest in racing games anymore because they're scared. They're scared of all the complaints and all the cynicism and criticism that racing games face, and they don't really want to try out anything new. But that's the thing, that's what we, the racing community, the dedicated fans, all want. We want a new Burnout game, a new Midnight Club game. I would love to see a Need for Speed Nitro 2 on the Switch, if I'm honest with you, because Need for Speed Nitro was great. I've played the shit out of that game. But It's easy to understand why people are fatigued and why they're attacking the racing game developers, because they're tired of the same old shit all over again and they want to see something new. So, to summarize, do I think that we're in a really bad space for racing games right now? Yes. Do I think that it can be fixed? Also yes. New challengers, new IPs, new ideas, thinking outside the box. Recycling the same idea over and over again like with Forza Horizon, yes, it's gonna sell games, but people are eventually gonna get bored. We want innovation. I'm speaking on behalf of most of the racing community here. Something new, creative, and fun. As long as it's well done, we'll like it and we'll play it, and it'll make things more interesting in the racing game space, because going back and forth to the same 3 franchises, it gets boring after a while. So we just want to see something new, and I think that's the explanation from a psychological aspect as to why a lot of racing game fans are so fatigued and bored right now. And that's really about it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me know what you think of the current state of racing games in the comment below. Be sure to hit like and subscribe to the channel. Follow my socials, they will be in the description, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.